The emergency doctors could not save the millionaire's wife who fell ill at the restaurant. Minutes later, the cleaning lady ran to help, and everyone was paralyzed when they saw what she did. The night enveloped Blue Horizon Restaurant in Denver, a place chosen for its discreet luxury and exquisite cuisine. Emma and Jonathan had just toasted to their wedding anniversary, but the clinking glasses sounded more like a warning than a celebration. Emma watched her surroundings with a restless gaze, while Jonathan maintained a mysterious, almost rehearsed expression. "You don't seem happy, dear. Is something wrong with the food?" Jonathan asked, leaning over the table with a forced smile, but his eyes did not convey the same cordiality. "Jonathan, I feel like I'm being watched." "Did you notice anything strange tonight?" Emma murmured, her eyes scanning the room nervously. Her voice was low, pressed by the weight of an inexplicable anxiety. Jonathan responded with a calm smile, trying to dispel the tension. "Love, we are just enjoying a good meal. Relax and try to enjoy it. Everything is fine." He reached across the table, trying to offer comfort with his touch. Emma tried to smile, but the unease did not leave her. She picked up the fork and tried to focus on the food, but each bite was a struggle against the nausea that began to form. "I think the shrimp is not good," she said, placing the fork back on the plate with a light clatter. "Let me call the waiter. They can bring something more to your liking," Jonathan offered, discreetly signaling to one of the attendants. The service's efficiency was impeccable, but the worry in his eyes was evident as he watched Emma struggle with the growing discomfort. As the waiter approached, Emma leaned on the table, her pale face contrasting with the golden lighting. I don't feel well, Jonathan. Something is wrong. It's not just the shrimp." Her voice was a faint whisper, almost lost among the sounds of conversations and laughter around. "Ma'am, do you need anything? Can I help in any way?" The waiter intervened with professional concern, looking alternately between Emma and Jonathan. Jonathan squeezed Emma's hand, trying to convey security. "Please bring some water and maybe some medicine for nausea. Quickly, please," he instructed, keeping calm in his voice, but his eyes fixed on Emma revealed a growing fear. "Of course, immediately, sir," replied the waiter, quickly moving away to fulfill the request. Emma tried to compose herself, breathing deeply. "Jonathan, I feel like this is not just a simple indisposition. My whole body is reacting. She could not finish the sentence, her breathing becoming rapid and shallow. "We will take care of you, Emma. No matter what it is, we will solve this," Jonathan affirmed, holding her hands firmly, the looks of other customers beginning to turn towards the unfolding scene. As Jonathan held his wife's hand, Emma felt one last flash of clarity. "Jonathan, why?" she whispered, before darkness swallowed her completely. As Emma whispered her words, almost fainting, Jonathan held her hand with an urgency that seemed to contain more than just simple concern. He looked around frantically, noticing that the other patrons' gazes at Blue Horizon began to focus on them, mixing curiosity and alarm. "Emma, stay with me, please," Jonathan pleaded, his voice choked with tension. He waved vigorously at the waiter, who was already returning with a glass of water and a small first aid kit. The waiter, observing the scene with an expression of alarm, placed the water on the table and opened the kit, looking for something that could help. "We have an antacid and allergy medications here, sir. She ate shrimp, didn't she? Is she allergic? Maybe they can help until we get to the hospital." Jonathan looked at him hurriedly, but his hand trembled as he took the antacid. "Give it to her now, quickly." His authority left no room for hesitation, and he himself tried to place the pill on Emma's now pale lips. As Emma struggled to swallow, her consciousness flickered between light and darkness. She managed to open her eyes briefly, staring at Jonathan with a mixture of confusion and fear. "What's happening to me?" she managed to murmur, her voice weak, barely audible above the growing murmurs of the other patrons. Jonathan caressed her face, trying to offer a comforting smile that did not reach his own eyes, which remained laden with an unspoken fear. "Everything will be all right, my love. I'm here with you. I'll take you to the hospital now." He turned to the waiter, who was still beside them, observing the scene with evident concern. "Call an ambulance immediately, and ask someone to control the crowd. We need space," Jonathan ordered, his voice firm despite the chaotic situation. The waiter nodded and moved away, pulling out his phone while starting to give orders to other restaurant staff. Meanwhile, Emma, now a bit more conscious, held Jonathan's hand with surprising strength. "Jonathan, I don't understand. This doesn't seem right." I know," Jonathan responded, his eyes scanning the room as if looking for someone or something that could be the cause of the situation. "But I'm here, Emma. We won't let this defeat us." Around them, the restaurant had transformed. What was an environment of celebration and joy now seemed like a stage of worry and fear. Other patrons stood up, some approached to offer help, while others just watched from a distance, whispering theories and concerns. "Please, everyone, stay in your places. Help is on the way," the waiter shouted, trying to maintain order, but the tension only grew. As Jonathan held Emma, waiting for the ambulance to arrive, he whispered words of comfort, but his mind worked frantically, reliving each moment of the night, trying to understand where things had gone so wrong. The situation at Blue Horizon restaurant was rapidly deteriorating. Jonathan held Emma's hand firmly, her breathing becoming increasingly irregular and heavy. The murmurs of the patrons around turned into worried whispers, as all eyes focused on the unfolding drama before them. "I can't breathe well, Jonathan." Emma's voice was weak, almost a whisper, as she struggled to draw breath. Her eyes were wide with the fear of a reality that began to close around her. "I'm here, Emma. Hold on, please." Jonathan tried to stay calm, but the anxiety was evident on his face. He looked around, seeking some additional assistance while waiting for the ambulance. "Sir, are you sure she's not allergic?" asked the waiter, already evaluating Emma's breathing. "She might be going into anaphylactic shock. We need epinephrine now." Jonathan quickly nodded to the waiter, who was already running towards the kitchen. "In the first aid kit, quickly!" shouted the waiter to the staff. The restaurant, once a place of celebration, had become a scene of medical emergency. As the waiter disappeared in search of the medication, Emma began to convulse slightly, her erratic movements adding a new level of urgency to the situation. Jonathan tried to keep Emma's airways clear. "What's happening to her?" Jonathan asked, as he assisted his wife through the spasms, the confusion and terror evident in his voice. "You will be all right. We are doing everything we can," Jonathan said to Emma, his voice trembling as he held Emma, trying to stabilize her. He couldn't help but look around. The waiter returned, breathless, with an epinephrine auto-injector. Without hesitation, Jonathan took the injector, quickly prepared it, and applied it to Emma's thigh, hoping the medication would act quickly to stabilize her breathing. After a few tense moments, Emma's breathing remained unstable. She stayed weak and pale. "The ambulance is on its way. Hold on," Jonathan assured her, trying to hide his own insecurity about the cause of the incident. The ambulance finally arrived to pick up the patient. Jonathan knew she was almost dying. "She will need more care at the hospital," he said, looking seriously at one of the paramedics. "The epinephrine didn't help. My wife is not allergic to shrimp," Jonathan explained. "It must have been a sudden illness." As Emma was taken on a stretcher to the ambulance, Jonathan followed beside her, promising Emma that everything would be fine in the end. The ambulance siren tore through the night silence as it sped through the streets of Denver towards the nearest hospital. Jonathan accompanied Emma in the back of the ambulance, holding her hand, whose touch seemed more fragile by the minute. Her face, bathed in the intermittent light of the sirens, showed a pallor that left him increasingly worried. "Can you hear me, Emma? We will arrive soon," Jonathan said, trying to keep his voice steady to convey some security. Emma, with half-closed eyes, only nodded slightly, struggling to stay conscious. The paramedic next to her monitored her vital signs, adjusting the oxygen flow. "We're doing everything we can to keep her stable," he commented, noting Jonathan's growing anxiety. "The hospital is already prepared to receive her immediately upon our arrival." Jonathan looked at the paramedic, his expression mixing gratitude and despair. "She never had health problems like this before. Never had allergies," he murmured, more to himself than to anyone else in the ambulance. The ambulance turned abruptly at another corner, approaching the hospital. The speed of the trip made everything seem like a blur to Jonathan, whose thoughts revolved around what could have caused Emma's sudden malaise. Upon arrival, the medical team was already waiting at the emergency entrance. Emma was quickly transferred to a stretcher and taken inside with urgency, while Jonathan followed behind, feeling a knot tightening in his stomach. "Please let me go with her," he pleaded to the nurses. "You can accompany her to the waiting room. We will take care of her," replied a nurse, guiding him through a lit corridor to a space where other families waited for news of their loved ones. Sitting there, Jonathan felt every second drag on endlessly. He replayed every detail of the night, trying to identify some sign he might have missed, something that explained Emma's unexpected collapse. How did this happen? He asked himself repeatedly, his mind unable to settle to the rapid spiral of events. "Sir, the doctor will update you as soon as we have more information," the nurse informed, noticing Jonathan's agitated state. She offered him a glass of water, which he accepted automatically, although his eyes remained fixed on the door through which Emma had disappeared. Jonathan stood up, pacing back and forth in the waiting room. With each step he felt a mix of anger and helplessness. The wait seemed endless, each minute stretching like hours. Jonathan stopped pacing, closed his eyes, and took a deep breath, trying to find some semblance of calm. Ashley, the hospital maid, was silently passing the hallway near the surgical center when the commotion began. The doctors rushed to the emergency room where a woman had been brought in. The professionals wore tense and focused expressions. She couldn't help but overhear the quick and urgent commands they exchanged. "Pressure still dropping. We need more blood bags now," shouted one of the doctors as the nurses rushed to comply. The emergency room door opened and closed, allowing glimpses of a chaotic scene inside. Ashley pressed her cart against the wall to clear the way, but her curiosity made her stay. She recognized the look of concern. She had seen it in many before. But something about tonight's urgency seemed different, more desperate. Inside the room, the doctors moved around Emma with a frenetic efficiency. "She's not responding to treatment." The voice of a young doctor was heard, clearly frustrated. "Let's try another dose of epinephrine." Ashley watched for a moment, her instinct telling her something was off. "The patient is dying, there's nothing more we can do," said one of the doctors. Ashley remembered a similar incident that happened years ago in her community. Driven by an impulse, she quickly searched her cart, finding a vial of antidote she had kept and forgotten in her bag. She used to keep medicines and teas in her belongings in case of an emergency. Without hesitation, she entered the room, surprising everyone with her presence. "I have something that might help," Ashley exclaimed, holding the vial high. The doctor stared at her, initially surprised and then irritated by the interruption. "This is an antidote for specific poisonings. I remembered a similar case," she explained quickly, feeling the pressure of the moment. The senior doctor hesitated, his expression showing doubt and despair. "Do something, she's dying." Ashley pressed the doctor, the urgency in her voice cutting through the tension in the air. With a reluctant nod from the doctor, she approached, opened the vial, and administered the antidote into Emma's vein. The next few seconds seemed to stretch infinitely as everyone in the room watched the monitors. Slowly, Emma's vital signs began to stabilize, her breathing becoming more regular, the color starting to return to her face. A sigh of relief was heard around the room. "Incredible, how did you know?" one of the doctors asked, looking at Ashley with a mixture of admiration and surprise. "Sometimes it's just instinct," Ashley replied, a tired smile forming on her lips. She knew she had taken a big chance, but the relief of seeing the patient recovering confirmed her action. Ashley left the room as the doctors resumed their efforts, now with new energy, ensuring Emma's full recovery. As she exited, she looked back one last time, feeling satisfied for having made a difference, and read the patient's name on the chart, keeping Emma's name in memory to pray for her. The next morning at the hospital brought a heavy atmosphere for Ashley. Despite the miracle that occurred the previous night, the hospital administration did not see the situation with the same gratitude she expected. Ashley was summoned to the hospital director's office as soon as she arrived, the director being a stern man known for his strict adherence to rules. Entering the office, Ashley felt the weight of each step. The director, sitting behind his large desk, observed her with a look that did not promise good news. "Ashley, your action last night was extraordinarily brave but extremely reckless. You are not a doctor. You are not authorized to administer any medication," he began, his voice firm and with no room for arguments. Ashley, still standing before the director's desk, swallowed hard. "I understand, sir, but I couldn't just watch while the lady died. I knew what that antidote could do," she replied, her voice a mix of defense and remorse. "I understand your point of view, but the rules are here for a reason. We can't simply ignore them. Your action could have caused more harm than good. You are dismissed from your duties here at the hospital." "We can no longer work with you," the director declared, leaving no room for further discussion. Ashley felt as if the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. "Dismissed? But I saved her life," She tried to argue, but the director was already signaling for her to leave. As she left the office, Ashley felt a mix of emotions: relief for having saved a life, but fear of an uncertain future. How am I going to pay my bills? What will I do now? She thought as she walked down the corridor she had so often walked with her cart towards the patients' rooms to deliver their meals. Passing through the waiting room, she saw a man waiting for news about a patient's health. Their eyes met, and for a moment she considered breaking down right there, aware that she would never work there again. She loved the hospital and had dedicated many years to that place. Jonathan approached with an intense look at the maid. "Your name is Ashley, isn't it? I'm the husband of the patient, Emma, the one you intervened on yesterday in the operating room. My name is Jonathan. I heard what you did and I can't believe it. What were you thinking? You could have killed Emma with your irresponsibility." His voice was low but laden with barely contained anger. "Your action was reckless and unacceptable." Ashley took a step back, surprised and hurt by the intensity of his reaction. I really believed I was helping. Everything indicated she would be fine after taking the antidote." Ashley tried to argue, feeling her heart race. "You are not a doctor," Jonathan interrupted, raising his voice, attracting curious looks from passers-by. "You have no right to make medical judgments. It doesn't matter what you thought. You acted out of your place, and that is inadmissible. You could have killed my wife," he said. Jonathan's words cut Ashley more deeply than the dismissal itself. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she fought to keep them under control. "I understand. I am sorry," she murmured, feeling small and isolated in the now murmur-filled corridor. Jonathan gave her one last severe look before turning and walking towards the patient rooms, leaving Ashley alone with her pain and the weight of her impulsive decision. With heavy steps, she walked towards the hospital exit, each step echoing the cost of her decision. Ashley had been raised in a family of traditional healers. She knew what she was doing. The doctors had already given up on Emma, and if Ashley had stood by, the woman would have died. Despite the harsh words from the patient's husband, she did not regret what she had done. It was a life, and she saved it, just as the women in her family had done many times. As she crossed the hospital doors for the last time, Ashley felt desolate but still sure she had tried to do the right thing. However, a suspicion began to haunt her as she left. Standing at the hospital entrance, doubt and distrust grew in her mind. Her familiarity with healing practices, inherited from a long line of healers, made her question the true nature of Emma's crisis. What if it was more than just an allergic reaction? What if someone really wanted to harm her? That antidote would only work in cases of poisoning. When I heard the symptoms, I remembered some cases I had seen in my family's community. The antidote worked for various conditions, but her reaction seemed like she had been poisoned, Ashley thought, unable to dismiss the knot of suspicion forming in her chest. Determined, she stopped. She turned and looked at the hospital's large building, its imposing facade now seeming like an indifferent giant to the small human tragedies that unfolded daily in its corridors. If someone tried to kill her, they will try again as soon as they know she is alive. I cannot let this happen. I cannot allow them to try again, she murmured to herself, deciding to act before it was too late. Ashley turned back and returned to the hospital. She went to the locker room and put on a nurse's uniform she found hanging on a hook, remembering that nurses often kept their clothes in hospital lockers. She put on a surgical mask and glasses that helped hide her face. Her appearance was confident, but inside fear and urgency pulsed with every step. She skillfully avoided known faces, evading direct contact as she headed to Emma's room. "Lord, I hope I am making the right decision. Help me save this woman," she prayed, not hesitating as she headed towards the woman she had saved. Entering the room, she found Emma alone, looking weak but stable, a sight that brought both relief and urgency to Ashley. "Emma," she began softly, approaching the bed. "My name is Ashley. We don't have time to talk now, but I need you to trust me. You are not safe here." Emma, with half-closed eyes, looked at Ashley, and a glimpse of astonishment seemed to cross her face. "Ashley? Who are you? What is happening?" Her voice was a hoarse whisper, fragile as paper. "We don't have time for explanations now, but I think someone tried to take your life. Someone might try to harm you again." "I'm going to take you to a safe place," Ashley said, checking the corridors from the corner of her eye before starting to disconnect Emma from the monitors with trained but slightly trembling hands. Although confused, Emma seemed to trust Ashley's look and did not scream. Ashley quickly arranged a wheelchair, helped Emma to sit, and began to push her out of the room. Each turn in the corridors felt like an eternity. Each look from a patient seemed like a potential threat. Reaching the service exit, mainly used by staff for deliveries and less visible procedures, Ashley looked around, ensuring the path was clear. "We're almost there," she whispered more to herself than to Emma as she pushed the wheelchair towards the street where her car was parked. Inside the car, with Emma lying in the back seat, Ashley started the engine and drove away from the hospital, her heart racing. "I will take care of you. I will find out what is going on," she promised as she drove towards her modest home, an improvised refuge, but one that, for now, offered the safety Emma needed. As the city passed by the window, Ashley felt the weight of her decision. She knew the consequences could be severe, but the conviction that she was doing the right thing kept her firm. It was a race against time, and Ashley was determined to protect Emma at all costs, even without knowing yet who they were facing. Ashley guided her car through the quiet streets until she reached her small house in a modest part of the city. The simple building, with its small garden in front, seemed like a sanctuary far from the chaos of the hospital. Emma lay in the back seat, still weak, but the expression of fear had softened a bit with the promise of safety. As soon as they arrived, Ashley helped Emma into the house and made her comfortable on the bed. "You can rest here. I will take care of you," Ashley said, covering Emma with a light blanket. The simplicity of the place seemed to welcome the patient, who observed everything with a tired but curious look. "Thank you, Ashley. But why are you doing this? Who are you, really?" Emma asked, her voice still weak but loaded with a gentle urgency. The question was fair, reflecting the surrealism of her situation. Ashley sat beside her, hesitating for a moment before answering. "I come from a family of healers. I grew up learning about herbs and antidotes. When I heard what was happening to you in the operating room, something told me it was more than just a common allergic reaction. I couldn't stand still. The doctors were losing you, so I acted. The director didn't like what I did and fired me. But if I am right, you might be in danger, so it's important that I brought you here," Ashley explained, her eyes briefly diverting, as if she was still surprised by her own audacity. Emma listened attentively, a trace of admiration appearing on her face. "And now you lost your job because of me," she murmured, guilt tinging her words. "I don't know how to thank you for what you did. You saved me. Thank you," said Emma. "I chose to help you," Ashley quickly responded, smiling to soften her words. "But I am worried about what comes next. I need to find out who did this to you before they try again. I am worried." In the following days, Ashley cared for Emma, giving her teas and remedies, seeing the woman improve more each day. The hospital had announced that the patient had escaped, so Ashley knew she had been careful when taking the patient out, and that now she would be safe since no one knew where she was. One quiet afternoon, while they were having tea in the kitchen, Emma revealed more about her life with Jonathan after hearing Ashley talk about their argument at the hospital. "He has always been so caring. Jonathan must be very worried about all this. I am sorry for the way he spoke to you. He was just scared. We've been together since high school. He knew I was involved in something serious at work. I believe he suspected what happened to me," she explained. Ashley questioned her with a look, so Emma continued her explanation. "You know, Ashley, sometimes I feel so uncomfortable at work. The looks, the whispers, I feel like someone is always trying to pull me down," Emma confided, looking out the window with a distant expression. Ashley listened attentively, each detail increasing her concern. "Do you think someone at work might have a reason to harm you?" she asked, trying to probe without pushing too hard. Emma sighed, a shadow of doubt crossing her face. "I don't know. But there is one person, Deborah, who has always wanted my position. She has never hidden it. Sometimes I think she would do anything to see me out of the company." Ashley reflected on this, pondering the possible threats without revealing the complexity of her own suspicions. "It's important to consider all possibilities, Emma. We need to be careful," she advised, feeling the weight of the responsibility she now carried. In the following days, as Emma regained her strength, she and Ashley spent long hours discussing various subjects, from happy memories to the challenges they faced. The conversation flowed naturally, and Ashley's house was filled with laughter and occasionally with tears. One night, while preparing dinner together, Emma spoke more about her interactions with Deborah. She has always been very competitive, you know, and lately she seemed even more intense, as if she was planning something. She knew I would be dining with my husband and that I was happy. She even offered me a glass of champagne to celebrate the dinner. I found her sudden change of behavior strange. Ashley, while cutting vegetables, stopped for a moment, absorbing this information. "And did you drink it?" A subtle suspicion began to form in her mind, although she tried not to jump to conclusions. "Yes, of course, it seemed like a moment of truce. It was strange she was so good to me suddenly," Emma responded, unaware of the course of Ashley's thoughts. The conversation led Ashley to careful reflection. While the two women shared the meal, Ashley's mind worked, pondering the next steps. She knew she needed to be cautious, especially now that the suspicions pointed in a direction she had not considered before. As Emma continued to recover in Ashley's modest house, the maid felt increasingly intrigued by everything her new friend was saying. One morning, after ensuring Emma was well enough to be left alone, Ashley decided it was time to act. "I'm going to do some investigations today," she told Emma while preparing breakfast. "We need to understand better what really happened." Emma, apprehensive but grateful, nodded. "Be careful, Ashley. I don't know what or who is involved in all this, but I feel the person who did this is very dangerous." Ashley dressed discreetly, opting for clothes that wouldn't attract attention. She headed to the company where Emma worked, determined to investigate Deborah without raising suspicions. Upon arrival, she pretended to be an external HR consultant conducting an employee satisfaction survey, an excuse that gave her access to the company's floors without raising suspicions. During her visit, Ashley carefully observed the work environment. She noticed the tension on the employees' faces, perhaps reflecting the competitive atmosphere Emma had described. Looking for Deborah, Ashley finally found her in a meeting through a frosted glass. Deborah seemed engaged, discussing with lively gestures that denoted her competitive personality. Waiting patiently until the meeting ended, Ashley approached Deborah with a mix of courtesy and firmness. "Hello, I'm an HR consultant, and I'm here to understand the work environment better. May I have a moment of your time?" Ashley proposed, maintaining her disguise. Deborah, surprised but always ready to impress potential consultants, agreed. "Of course, let's go to my office." As they walked, Ashley asked general questions about the company's culture, carefully observing Deborah's body language and responses. Nothing in Deborah's behavior suggested immediate guilt. She spoke of her passion for work and her aspirations, but there was a calculated coldness in her words. "How do you handle competition here?" Ashley probed, observing Deborah's reaction. Deborah laughed lightly, a polite response at the ready. "It's a competitive environment, of course. We all want to advance, but I believe in playing fair. Sometimes people misinterpret ambition." Ashley thanked Deborah for her time and left the company with more questions than answers. On the way back, she pondered the interaction. Deborah did not seem like a person capable of a crime. However, something in her tone left Ashley uneasy. Maybe it's not her, or maybe she's very good at hiding, Ashley thought, deciding she needed more information before forming any definitive conclusion. Upon returning, Ashley shared her observations with Emma, who listened attentively. "It's hard to say, Ashley. Deborah has always been ambitious, but to do what you suspect, I don't know." Both knew they needed more evidence before they could really understand what was happening. After sharing her findings about Deborah with Emma and finding no concrete evidence of her guilt, Ashley began to question other possibilities. The conversation with Emma left her uneasy. The mention that Jonathan always knew about the challenges at Emma's work and his protective behavior could hide more than marital concern. Determined to explore all avenues, Ashley decided it was time to observe Jonathan more closely. "Maybe there's something we're missing," Ashley murmured as she planned her next step. Dressing discreetly, Ashley followed Jonathan one day after he left home for work. She kept a safe distance, using sunglasses and a hat to avoid being recognized. Jonathan seemed like an ordinary man on his way to work, but Ashley was not deceived by the apparent normality. Jonathan entered an office building. Ashley waited outside, pondering her options. After a few minutes, she decided to enter the building, pretending to be lost. Inside, she noticed Jonathan from afar. He was talking on the phone in a cafe in the lobby of the company. She couldn't hear the conversation, but Jonathan's serious expression and intense gestures indicated the matter was grave. Waiting for him to walk away, Ashley approached the counter, ordering a coffee while trying to catch fragments of his phone conversation. Jonathan mentioned something about ensuring everything was resolved and leaving no traces. Additionally, she caught that he was talking to a lawyer as he mentioned wills and documents that seemed important for a potential defense. Ashley felt a chill upon hearing these words. Ashley observed Emma's husband end the call and return to the parking lot, not going to his office after the conversation. Frustrated but still determined, Ashley refocused her attention on Jonathan. Ashley followed Jonathan and got into her car, parked near Emma's husband's car, noting that he was checking something in the trunk. Curiosity overcame her caution and she watched closely to see what he was handling. Jonathan took out what appeared to be a small vial and a set of documents. Before she could see more, Ashley was forced to hide as Jonathan began looking around, clearly feeling watched. When Jonathan finally returned to the office, Ashley decided to check what he had been handling in the car. Carefully, she took a handkerchief from her bag to avoid tampering with any evidence and opened the vehicle's trunk. Inside, she found a medical prescription and a note mentioning Emma's name. The prescription was for a substance that could easily be used to poison someone, especially if mixed with alcohol. Ashley, now holding the compromising evidence, felt torn. Could someone have planted this to incriminate him? Or did he really try to harm Emma? She pondered, uncertainty gnawing at her confidence. After finding the incriminating evidence in Jonathan's car, Ashley acted quickly. She first contacted the police to show them the vial and the medical prescription she found, explaining her suspicions and how they came to light. The officers, considering the seriousness of the evidence, agreed to follow up on the case and promised to go to the location immediately. Once they arrived, Ashley returned home, finding Emma still enjoying the tranquility of the temporary home, unaware of the latest discoveries. "We need to go to the police station, Emma. I found something very serious that the police need to see, and they will want to hear from you as well," Ashley explained, trying to prepare her friend for the impact of the revelations that were about to come. The interrogation room at the police station was saturated with palpable tension, the air heavy with the anticipation of the imminent confrontation. Emma, sitting rigidly in a metal chair, seemed a shadow of herself, trembling slightly as she awaited Jonathan's entry. Ashley was by her side, a comforting presence amid the emotional storm. Jonathan entered with an arrogant posture, his face masked by a calculated calm. Upon seeing Emma, a brief flicker of hesitation passed through his eyes before he resumed control, adopting an expression of nonchalance. "Emma, really involving the police? This is dramatic even for you," he began, his voice tinged with sarcasm, trying to minimize the situation with casual disdain. Emma, though shaken, found the strength to respond, her voice trembling but fueled by growing indignation. "Jonathan, they found things in your car, things that would hurt me. Tell me it's a mistake, please. Tell me that." With a smile that didn't reach his eyes, cold and unsettling, Jonathan leaned slightly towards her. "Emma, always so sweet and naively hopeful. Let me clarify so even you can understand," he said, the feigned patience quickly vanishing. "Yes, I meticulously planned everything. Why would I stay by your side without a benefit? The money from your will would be my freedom." The words hit Emma like sharp blades, each one cutting deeper than the last. "Why, Jonathan? Why would you do this to me? I loved you," she whispered, tears starting to flow freely down her face. "Love? Emma, love is just a tool for people like me, a useful tool to keep women like you believing in people like me. It was so easy to fool you. I just wanted the money. I never loved you. Everything was going perfectly until that maid showed up and ruined everything. I was so convincing I even impressed myself," Jonathan responded with cold cruelty, laughing at the pain he saw reflected in her eyes. "I may have been arrested, but I still have the right to your money as your husband. I just wanted to speed things up and no longer have to see you to get what I wanted, the money." The police intervened immediately, with one officer stepping forward. "That's enough. Jonathan Carvalho, you are under arrest for attempted murder. You have the right to remain silent," he announced, as he placed the handcuffs on Jonathan's wrists. Jonathan, however, seemed undisturbed by his imminent arrest. "See, Emma, in the end we all do what's necessary to survive. I just played the game better than you. Soon I'll be rich with your money. It's no use reporting me," he said arrogantly, his final words as he was escorted out of the room. Devastated, Emma turned to Ashley, seeking comfort in her friend. "How could I have been so blind not to see who he really was?" she asked, her voice broken by betrayal and suffering. However, deep inside, Emma began to remember all the times Jonathan belittled her, verbally abused her when they were alone, always careful not to do so in public, maintaining his clean image. How could he be so cruel? How did I not realize that relationship wasn't normal? She asked herself. Ashley held Emma's hand firmly. Sometimes we want to see the best in the people we love. But you're safe now, and that's what matters. He can't hurt you anymore. You are safe and will never be alone. You will always have a friend, said Ashley, hugging Emma. Emma looked at Ashley, a tear rolling down her cheek. And now how can I start rebuilding my life? One day at a time, Ashley responded softly. You took an important step today by facing the truth. I'll be here to help you rebuild step by step. You're not alone. In the days following the confrontation at the police station, the legal process against Jonathan moved surprisingly quickly, given the overwhelming evidence and his own confession during the interrogation. He was convicted of attempted murder and other related crimes in his attempt to poison Emma. The sentence was severe, reflecting the gravity of his actions. Emma, although relieved by the verdict, knew there was still one last issue to face before she could close this painful chapter of her life. She asked Ashley to accompany her on a visit to the prison where Jonathan was held. Ashley, always supportive, agreed without hesitation, understanding the importance of this encounter for Emma. At the prison, the meeting was charged with palpable tension. Jonathan was brought into the visitation room, handcuffed and visibly more worn than the last time they had seen him. Emma took a deep breath, seeking the courage to face the man who had almost taken everything from her. Jonathan, Emma began, her voice firm, stronger than she felt. Today I come here not for you, but for myself. I need to say some things to be able to move on. Jonathan watched her, his look now more resigned. Emma, He tried to speak, but Emma interrupted him. No, Jonathan. You no longer have the right to my time or my life. You chose your actions, and now you live with the consequences. She cut him off, holding the separation papers in her hands. I am here to say that I have divorced you, and more than that, my lawyer used everything you did against me to document the separation. You will have no part in my fortune, the one you so desired, she said. Jonathan listened, each word from Emma like a blow he could not stop. He was furious. However, Emma continued, now stronger and fearless. And there's more, Jonathan. All this time, one person stood by me, someone who truly saved me not only physically, but in every possible way. Ashley, this incredible woman by my side, showed me what it means to have courage and integrity. Ashley watched, touched by Emma's words, but not expecting what came next. That's why I decided that the only person who deserves any part of my fortune is Ashley. She turned to the woman beside her. I am giving you a substantial amount, Ashley, not only as a thank you but as a recognition of your friendship and companionship, Emma announced, handing a check to Ashley, who was speechless. Jonathan, finally broken, just lowered his head, the reality of his total loss crystallizing. Don't leave me here, Emma, please. You don't know how cruel this place is. I can't be left with nothing, he argued, but his ex-wife ignored him and turned her back. Emma and Ashley left the prison together with a painful chapter closed, while a new one began to open. Outside the cold shadow of the prison, Emma looked at Ashley, her new friend and now also the protector of her legacy. Thank you, Ashley, for everything. Ashley, holding the check, just smiled, emotional. We will rebuild, Emma, together. After the tumultuous events and painful revelations that had marked their lives, Ashley and Emma emerged not only as strong women, but as catalysts for change. Inspired by the painful experience, Emma and Ashley decided to use what happened and their resources for a greater cause that would help other women be strong and free. Joining forces, Ashley and Emma founded a non-governmental organization dedicated to helping victims of domestic violence. The NGO, named Safe Haven, had the mission of providing support, resources, and legal assistance to women facing situations similar to Emma's. On a sunny day, Ashley and Emma supervised the renovation of a large house they had acquired with part of Emma's fortune. The house would be transformed into a shelter and recovery center for women and children from violent homes. Do you think we can help some women? Emma asked, looking at the house that, with every hammer blow and every brushstroke, was being transformed into a home and a symbol of hope. I know we will, Ashley replied with conviction, holding Emma's hand. Every woman we help is a victory, Every story we change is a step towards a better world. As the renovation progressed, Ashley and Emma began to structure the NGO's programs. They would offer everything from psychological counseling sessions to legal assistance, ensuring that women had not only emotional support, but also the means to seek justice and independence. The opening day arrived full of expectations and emotions. The house was full of volunteers, donors, and local media, all eager to see the fruit of Ashley and Emma's work. The two women cut the red ribbon at the main entrance, officially declaring Safe Haven open. During the event, Emma gave a touching speech. "This house is more than bricks and mortar. It represents a refuge for those who, for too long, have felt voiceless and without a way out. Here they will find a safe harbor, a place where they can begin to heal their wounds and rebuild their lives. We cannot change the past, but we can influence the future and ensure that no other woman has to face what I faced." Ashley, in turn, spoke about the importance of community and solidarity. "Our strength comes from our unity. Safe Haven is not just the work of Emma and me, but of everyone who is here and those who, even if not present, support our cause. Every small gesture of support contributes to big changes." As the day progressed, many women approached, some with stories similar to Emma's, others just wishing to contribute to the movement the NGO represented. The community forming around Safe Haven was a testament to the impact Ashley and Emma were already having on many people's lives. With Safe Haven, Ashley and Emma not only rebuilt their own lives, but also gave other women hope and the resources to do the same. Through the pain and trials, they found a purpose that lifted and inspired them day after day to continue fighting for a world where domestic violence had no place. Several years had passed since Ashley and Emma met under the darkest circumstances, but from that darkness emerged a light that not only illuminated their own paths, but also those of countless other women. The Safe Haven NGO had become more than a shelter. It was a movement, a powerful voice against domestic violence that resonated through conferences and intervention programs across the country. Jonathan remained behind bars, a distant shadow that no longer cast its cold over Emma's life. Meanwhile, Emma's life flourished in ways she had never imagined in those dark days. She found true love, a love built on foundations of respect and mutual understanding. Her new partner, Ronald, met her during a fundraising event for Safe Haven. He was drawn to her strength and dedication to the cause, and together they built a partnership that was both a romantic journey and a shared mission to help others. Ashley also found happiness in her personal life. She married Matthew, a volunteer who had come to Safe Haven, seeking to contribute his management skills. What began as a professional collaboration quickly evolved into something deeper. They shared a commitment to social justice that strengthened their relationship, making them partners in life and activism. The couples had expanded their involvement with the NGO, using their own experiences to advocate for public policies that protected and empowered women in at-risk situations. Ashley and Emma remained friends, supporting each other. It was more than a friendship. They had become a family. On the afternoon of the 10th anniversary celebration of Safe Haven, Ashley and Emma stood at the center of a large community event. The venue was decorated with banners and flowers, symbolizing growth and renewal. Children ran across the lawn, while women who had gone through the program shared their stories of overcoming adversity. Emma stepped onto the stage, the microphone in her trembling hands, not from nervousness but from deep emotion. "When I thought my life had come to an end, I found a sister in Ashley," she began, her voice clear and strong, projecting over the crowd. "Together we created a place where fear turns into strength, where silence turns into voice. Safe Haven is not just a place but a testament that together we are unstoppable." Ashley joined her, holding her hand. "Each of you who has passed through our doors has taught us something valuable about courage, about struggle, and about the power of community. Our journey is made of your stories, your victories," Ashley added, her gaze sweeping the audience, finding faces of women she now knew not just as survivors, but as victors. Matthew and Ronald, standing beside the stage, smiled, their eyes shining with pride. Their work had also expanded, with Matthew leading initiatives that involved men in the conversation about domestic violence, educating and changing masculine perspectives. As the day gave way to night, lanterns were lit and a light ceremony was held. Each lantern represented a life that Safe Haven had touched, each flame a story of darkness turned into light. As the lanterns ascended into the night sky, Emma and Ashley embraced, feeling connected to something greater than themselves. Under the star-filled sky, they shared smiles and tears, reflecting on the journey they had traveled together. These moments of joy and the memories of the struggles they faced reinforced a silent promise between them, never to stop fighting for a better world. This promise, strengthened by the deep friendship they had developed, did not need to be spoken aloud to be real and powerful. They felt this determination in their hearts, ready to face whatever came next, together. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to continue bringing exciting stories almost every day. Don't miss the next surprising narrative that is about to appear on your screen. We greatly appreciate having you here with us. Now you can click on the links that are appearing on the screen right now. We have a special selection just for you, full of valuable stories and guaranteed entertainment. See you there.